Hello again. Yeah, it is, I've been gone for a while. And to that, I don't really have a valid explanation. My head's kind of been in the clouds. Get it? And I've been very lazy, and I guess you could say I've taken a break, but none of that matters. All that matters is that I am back, and I'm going to start trying to make videos more often. So hopefully when I say that, it is 2 to 3 days, and hopefully my mind understands that and actually does it, but we'll see. Anyway, let's carry on with the video. So we are going to be using one of the newer exotics, Mantle of Battle Harmony. Now, first off, what I want to go over is what it actually does. Takedowns with this weapons that have a damage type matching your subclass element grant you super energy. While your super energy is full, you instead gain a temporary bonus to weapon damage of the type matching your subclass element. So I know you saw this riskrunner. Basically, that perk is going to be making this riskrunner hit like a truck. The matchup for the riskrunner in the Mantle of Battle Harmony is a very fun one to do, and you can even do this with other subclasses if you want, such as like Void with Ruinous Effigy or Solar with Sunshot or something like that. But for this video specifically, we are going to be using the riskrunner. Now, next off, going over the skill tree that we're going to be using middle tree with Chaos Reach, and we're going to be using Chaos Reach because basically this is a super build of sorts, and we want to use our super as much as we possibly can. With Chaos Reach, we can just deactivate it and preserve whatever super energy we don't need, and whatever super energy that we have left over will then carry out to our next super. We are going to be constantly getting some super energy from our riskrunner kills, and because of our Mantle of Battle Harmony, and our abilities should be flowing back very frequently due to ionic traces from the skill tree as well, which is defeating enemies has a chance to create ionic traces. Collecting them grants energy to all of your abilities. Now, your abilities aren't really significant with this whole setup, but with your grenade, your pulse grenade, you're going to be using this to actually proc your riskrunner if there's no arc damage. Alrighty, now that we got the skill tree out of the way, let's move on to weapons. I'm going to try to go through this as fast as I possibly can. Now, with the riskrunner, I already went over it. The riskrunner, we're just going to be throwing grenades at our feet if there's no arc damage, and if there is arc damage, we're just going to be letting loose with it. We're going to be killing all the enemies with this weapon. We're going to be generating a ton of super energy with this weapon because of Mantle of Battle Harmony, and we're going to be getting consistent damage buffs because of Mantle of Battle Harmony, as well as a mod that I will go over in just a little bit. First off, I want to go over the other weapons. So for the other weapons, they can be whatever you want. For me, I'm using the Long Shadow as well as a Sub-Zero Salvo. Weapons can honestly be whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you run. I, for one, am running a sniper because I'm using the sniper for dealing with barrier champions, but you can switch off whatever weapons you want at whatever point. Honestly, the only thing that is really concrete in terms of weapons is the riskrunner. The other gun that I am using is, again, the Sub-Zero Salvo, and I'm only using this because it is a very nice roll, Ambitious Assassin with Demolitionist, and it's Arc, so it pairs up with our Arc subclass and Mantle of Battle Harmony. Very nice, very fluid, everything works together just like they should be. Moving on to stats, also can be whatever you want. I'm more leaning towards going 100 recovery with this setup, just because I can have my rifts frequently as hell, and you know, recovery is what you want to go most of the time with your Warlock, and also I am running 80 discipline. I'd run 100 discipline if I can, but my armor sucks, so I can't. But the recommended stats that I would give for you for this build is recovery, discipline, or strength if you want to max any of those out. Intellect I wouldn't recommend at all because I'm going to be using a mod called Font of Wisdom. If you're not going to be using Font of Wisdom though, then I would recommend speccing more into intellect, but just do yourself a favor and get Font of Wisdom. It makes your life a lot easier. With that being said, I'm actually going to move on to mods. I'll go over the Elemental Well mods first because I just went over one, and then I'll go over the Charge of Light stuff, and then the sort of basic, not so important mods. So first things first, Font of Wisdom, like I said before, picking up an Elemental Well that matches your subclass energy type grants you a temporary significant increase to your intellect, improving the recharge rate of your super. Now, I've gone over this mod quite often with my videos, and it seems like there's always some new information, but basically the gist of this is that this Font of Wisdom mod increases your intellect significantly. So speccing into intellect while using Font of Wisdom is not a good idea. Just have your intellect be somewhat decent to around like maybe 20 to 40, and then Font of Wisdom will take care of the rest. There's a 30-second timer for it whenever you pick up an Elemental Well, and due to the constant spawning of Elemental Wells, that cooldown should never be fully drawn out. So you should always have Font of Wisdom proc. Next mod I want to go over is Font of Might. Picking up an Elemental Well that matches your subclass energy type grants a temporary bonus to weapon damage of that same element type. This is what I was talking about earlier with making the riskrunner buffed. And lastly, what's actually going to be spawning the Elemental Well mods for us. Elemental Armaments. Weapons takedowns with a damage type that matches your subclass element have an escalating chance to spawn an elemental well. So I don't really need to go over that too much. Our riskrunner is going to be our main source of actual spawning for our elemental wells, or spawner, and yeah, spam the hell out of the riskrunner. All right, next up, the actual Charge of Light mods. So first things first, Swift Charge. This is how we're going to be getting Charge of Light. Become Charge of Light by rapidly defeating combatants with a pulse rifle, sidearm, or submachine guns. And I'm sure it's pretty obvious why we're using Swift Charge. Riskrunner. And finally, we're going to be using those Charge of Light stacks with Reactive Pulse. You can switch this off with whatever you want. I, for one, like using Reactive Pulse, and it just fits the bill with the whole arc theme that we got going around. And what this does is, while Charge of Light, when you take damage while surrounded by combatants, you emit a burst of damaging arc energy, consuming 1 stack of Charged with Light. Other mods that I think would work perfectly well as well is Firepower. You could even run Heavy-Handed if you really want to. You can absolutely use Energy Converter. And you can also run High Energy Fire if you really want to, just to increase your riskrunner damage even more. And if you actually do this, you gain my respect. But basically what this does, while Charge with Light, gain a bonus to weapon damage. Each defeated combatant consumes 1 stack of Charge with Light. You're going to be getting Charge of Light stacks extremely fast due to Swift Charge and Riskrunner and just how many kills you're going to be getting. So having that High Energy Fire is just going to be consuming your stacks over and over and over again, just further increasing your Riskrunner damage extremely often. And that is all the Charge of Light mods. For the other mods, they can honestly be whatever you want. None of them are really too important. The only one that I would actually note, like 100%, is Surge Detonators, which is from your artifact. Arc Grenades disrupt combatants. It's good for Overload champions. And if you don't have any room for Surge Detonators because you want to use other mods, then you can always use Overload rounds with your submachine gun. You can also use like Submachine Gun Scavenger or even Rocket Launcher Scavenger, which is what I'm currently using. Or you can use stuff like Momentum Transfer or even Impact Induction if you're feeling pretty frisky. But yeah, that is honestly pretty much it. All other stats are personal preference, and honestly the Charge of Light mods are even personal preference if you really want. The only thing that really matters with this setup is Riskrunner and Mantle of Battle Harmony with Middle Tree Stormcaller as well. But yeah, that's it. It's good to be back, and I'm very, very sorry for taking such a big break. I wasn't expecting to take this long to make this video, but I guess I needed to take some time to actually get my head back down to earth and out of the clouds. I just used the same joke 2 times in the same video. Alright, I'll end it there on that note. I'll see you guys in the next video. And as always, thank you so much. I love you all for your support, and I will catch you on the flip side. Peace!